What does it take to flip a congressional seat in Indiana? What does it take to hold one? Or maybe most importantly, who are the people willing to step up and fight for Hoosier families in Washington? This is Turn Left, Running for Congress 2026. We're sitting down with the Indiana Democratic candidates running for Congress in the 2026 primary. This is your chance to hear directly from the people who want to represent you, not just their talking points, but their stories, their values, and their vision for Indiana's future. Indiana's own Dana Black, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Turn Left. But yo, this is a special episode because you remember when I was doing the running for Congress during the primary season because we had so many candidates running in the primary? Well, y'all, I have another congressional candidate for you today. Y'all, welcome to my show, Jamee Decio, who is running in Indiana's 2nd Congressional District. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited because I didn't reach out to you during the primary because I didn't get everybody. Well, I think I did reach out to you, but we couldn't get everybody on. But you won your primary, and now let's talk about it. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Who am I? I'm a woman from Elkhart, Indiana. I was born in Elkhart, Indiana, and spent my childhood there, my middle school years there. Went to college at Notre Dame, went to college at law school at Notre Dame. Been a prosecutor. I've worked for legal aid. I've done a lot of things. I'm a member of a union, the Writers Guild of America union, and I'm running for Congress because somebody has to represent the people here. And right now they have no representation.
No, none at all. None at all. So tell me what your upbringing was like. Did you always know that you wanted to be a servant? Because going to school, going to law school ain't easy, right? And then you were a prosecutor, so none of that's easy.
You know, looking back, it wasn't that difficult. I think the best part about my schooling was that I like to read. And if you read, you learn a lot. So law school is a lot of reading. So that wasn't that difficult. I love reading. I could have skipped high school and college and just gone to law school because you read something and you can utilize it in your life. So I love that. But I grew up in a small town in Elkhart. My father was first generation American. He grew up on the other side of the tracks. And somehow or another, this man, his whole life, 90% of his life, he was a philanthropist. And he gave back. Even as a kid, when he had a paper route, he was giving 2/3 of his money back to charity. And so I sat next to my dad my whole life, and I knew part of what I was supposed to be doing was to help people. You were supposed to serve others. It's not all about you, is what I learned. And so I kind of went to law school to run for office, but I wasn't sure I was going to do it. And my mother kept saying, you need to do this. And I'm like, But I think this is the absolutely right time for me to be running because other people wanted to run. And Lori Camp ran 2 years ago, and she was really good, but she wanted to spend time with her daughter, was in her senior year in college. And so I just checked around and nobody else was ready to do it. So I said, well, if they aren't, I'll do it. And I'm really glad I did.
If not you, who, right?
It's like you can do nothing or you can do something. And for me, I don't know how to do nothing. So I like stepping up, and I like a challenge. It's a huge challenge. But I've had a lot of challenges in my life, so I'm ready for it. And the most important thing I probably should say is the people here are so nice. They're so kind. They give you an opportunity to express yourself and tell them who you are and share the issues with them. And they're very knowledgeable. So I think I've gotten the better end of the deal doing this. I know people really want a candidate to win. I want to win for them, but I'm getting the better end of the deal because I've met so many really interesting people and who are well informed, which is really nice to know.
That's good. That is so good. And then what I imagine, because you've been a prosecutor, you've been in the community, you grew up in the community, so people know you, right? There probably is not as many folks worried about the D or the R behind your name because you're a neighbor. You're someone who's just been in the community your whole life.
Yeah, well, that since my family, the craziest thing is that everybody knew my parents, which I didn't really. I kind of knew my dad talked to everybody, but I didn't know everybody had a story about him.
Wow.
And wherever I go, it can be Manchester, it can be Knox, it can be Plymouth, LaPorte, I didn't even know he went to these places, but people have stories about him. And it's kind of nice. He died 6 years ago, I think.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, and he had a wonderful life. And I think it's really interesting the impact someone can have on a community. And I can never measure up to him. But I think he'd be really happy that I'm serving in a way that I actually think I'm meant to serve, because I've been an advocate forever. I worked at Legal Aid. That's my first job as a law student. And, advocating for people one at a time is it's just a great experience, because you help somebody who really, really needs it. And I learned a lot from that. And I became a prosecutor because I didn't think I would have the same, basically, I couldn't help a person in the same way. As a prosecutor, if I can tell if someone, sorry for what they did or whatever, you can talk to them and realize, I'm not throwing the book at this person. They made a mistake. So you have more opportunity to help someone, I think. I'm not talking about murder or rape or really serious crimes, the middle crimes, and you can really make a difference, I think. And I like that. I really like that job, because instead of just throwing the book at someone, you can try to encourage them and say, you're a nice guy, but I don't want to see you again here. I want to see you in the community. So I really learned a lot from that job as well. I really liked it a lot.
That's interesting that you say that, because that was, when Kamala was running, and, she talked about being a prosecutor. I know that, especially in the Black community, she was starting to get a lot of flack because she was a prosecutor. But she tried to explain exactly what you're explaining right now, which is you can determine the charges.
Yeah, and you can, and the sentence, you can be fair, because if you have that instinct, I think I learned that pretty early on. You can just tell somebody who's really remorseful, and I don't have the best of my knowledge, nobody ever came back that I really gave them a more lenient sentence, because they were good people. They just made a mistake. And that's our system has to work for everyone. And now it's a lot different today. There's so many different versions of, different things you can send somebody to. You don't want to put anyone in jail if you don't have to. I think that doesn't really solve anything. To me, it was better, go get them to do community service and reflect on what they did, and hopefully get a job and make something of yourself. Everybody has talent. They just got to find it.
Yeah.
And I think I understand about Kamala. I think because I did live in California too. It's tough. People have the wrong idea, I think, what prosecutors are, because my whole motto was to be fair. And I'm sure it's hard when you have murder, when there's murders and there's rapes. People would never believe that, what you see on television is not what you see in real life. Real life is horrible. So, but I think it's what a lot of women in the last 30, 40 years want to be prosecutors, because it looks good on your resume and it shows that you're tough, that you can stand up to somebody, especially, defensive lawyers that are, 60 years old and trying to get what they want out of you, and you've got to stand up to them. So, you learn, she was young when she did it. I was young when I did it. You learned how to stand up for what's right and find this middle ground, I think.
I love it. I love it. Because I know Prosecutor Mears here down in Marion County catches a lot of flack from the State House, because he put a limit on what he was going to charge for marijuana possession, and the State House just went nuts. And he does his diversion programs. I've seen the good work that a good prosecutor can do, and I also want to highlight what you just said. A lot of people think prosecutors only want to rack up wins.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, let's see how many people we can lock up. And that's
the boss does, though. The boss does.
Okay.
The boss really wants that. That's what he wants. He wants that. But when you're in your position, no, because you're in the community. Some of these people you might know or have seen. It's different. And also you think about all the people that you knew in your family or your friends who did something, and you realize, everybody makes mistakes. We all make mistakes, hopefully not criminal. But I even did juveniles when I started out, and boy, I learned a lot from them, because basically for juveniles, I think parents just need to be parents, and that was what they needed more than anything. You just don't want to put a kid in detention. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to. Yeah. But I learned a lot from that too. That was a really good experience, and I had a good boss that taught me, how to help these kids. It was interesting. Like, not just stay in school, but find something that you love and do it. Yeah. Because, like I said, I think everyone has talent. Some kids just don't know. and they gotta find it. It's not the school, but it's the parents really need to be there for their kid too. That's a really big thing.
Yeah. When you were a prosecutor, it was that experience that helped you see the whole person versus just the crime or what was written on the docket?
Yeah, I remember once a defendant hugged me after I gave him, after he was sentenced because I wasn't that hard on him. And I thought it was a little weird. He hugged me, but it's because he was appreciative. I mean, I was, I'm just doing my job. And, you have to remember some of these times, sometimes people just make something stupid, and it's like, thankfully today, we don't prosecute that many cases like that anymore. I don't think it's more people. It's the tougher cases that people really go after now because laws have been more lenient now. Not as much as they probably should be, like just the marijuana thing. I also did DUIs. I did a lot of DUIs back in the day. And that I never drank again after I started being a prosecutor, only because I saw terrible things that happened to people in a moment. You really learn. You really learn, like, this is not the way to be. Yeah, I feel sorry for. I saw some pretty awful things, and I feel sorry. You feel for them. They make a terrible mistake in a minute, and yeah.
So what do you say to, like, because there's going to be like some Republican that's going to listen to this and they're going to say, "Oh, she's not tough on crime. Oh my goodness." What do you say to that?
Oh, I was pretty tough when I had to be tough. The ones that I really had to put away, I outsmarted the lawyers and I put them away. Those are the ones you got to know which ones. The ones that have a rap sheet. But you don't, you really want to give the younger person an opportunity to make amends. I think that's part of what our system should be, especially when it's a minor offense. Or a lesser offense. Yeah. No, I was more than tough when I had to be tough. That's not a problem at all. I know the one case that took me a while to figure that one out, but I got him. He did his 8 to whatever it was, 8 to 12, and I outsmarted them. So that was good because, I won't talk about it because I don't want you to know, but I just know that it worked.
Yeah. And so
you got to know, you just got to pick those cases, and it's, because especially if they're influencing young people or they have the gang thing, there's always someone that just gets pulled in and you want to help them. But most importantly for me, my favorite case that I ever did was I once advocated, I also did the appeals from Michigan City Prison, and I advocated for the appellant, the young man who, he was probably in his mid-30s. He had been in jail, allegedly, he alleged in his brief that he had been in jail for a year longer than the sentence allowed. And when I got it, I read it and read the statute because I was probably like a teenager when he was in jail. And I realized somebody had made a mistake, the judge, the lawyer, the prosecutor. So I actually talked to my judge before he went to the hearing. And I said, I think somebody's really messed this up and we need to do something about it. And I said, I kind of want to advocate for him. And I'm the prosecutor, which it's not your job, but your job is to do the right thing. That's so, and I went back to see him in the cell and I said, if it's okay with you, can I advocate for you? I think he was probably almost going to have a heart attack because he just couldn't believe that I would say that to him. But I said, that's the job isn't to keep you here if it's wrong. You were kept here too long. That's not the job. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the right thing. So he let me, and I did advocate for him. My boss never heard that I did that though.
Well, that's good though. Like he needed somebody.
Yeah, and it was like because he was really, you get in the courtroom and you're a little intimidated, I think, and he was quiet, and he was right. He was kept a year longer. I was really proud of that because that's not the thing prosecutors usually do, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. How long were you a prosecutor?
3 years, and then the 36th month I got fired.
Why?
Because I wouldn't fix a case for a white guy. Yeah.
Oh, good for you. That's something to be fired for. If you're going to get fired for your morals and your values, hey, I say have at it.
You got to do what you take an oath. You take an oath to do the right thing. You just got to do it. I thought it was a no-brainer, but it ended up being quite a kind of mess because he had threatened me, and I got fired a week later. Pretty much no one wanted to talk to me. I was kind of persona non grata for a while. It was weird. But you know what? It didn't change the fact that I did the right thing. And I'm sorry for that occurred, but it was a good life lesson for me. And also, sadly, Elkhart County has had 8 exonerations in the last 20 some years. And, sadly, I really had not known that what had gone on. I kept to myself in my court, and they've had the most per capita of anyone in the country.
Wow.
And in a way, I'm really happy I got out so that I didn't have to be part of that. But and I did the right thing. But sadly, people did go to jail who were innocent, and that's really awful. And I know Notre Dame has an exoneration program, and they're still working on more. And that's the best thing we can do, I think, is to make sure no one gets put in jail who did not commit the crime.
But it sounds like you have a very high moral compass, because you said you were young and you could have been easily influenced into doing the wrong thing. Would you attribute that to like your dad being the philanthropist that he was and all of that?
My dad being like, all you have is your good name. That's what my dad would say. You got your good name, you got your integrity. You don't ever want to give that away. But I think that was just ingrained in me as a kid. You had to not only look right, you had to be right. You'd like the right thing. And it's like, I heard that, and my mother too, all my life. I think most lawyers do the right thing. Sadly, we're in a place right now in our country where they're not doing the right thing. Well, because we could talk about that all day about what's going on in DC and how there's a $1.8 billion, our money, our tax money, slush fund for criminals that attacked the Capitol, which is horrifying to me. It's so un-American. So, but I think most lawyers do the right thing. I learned at an early age also not to give my power away.
Ooh,
that's
a lesson right there.
That was my mother. I was like, you got to stand up for yourself. And finally I did it. And then once you do it, I got to tell you, it's much easier to do it all the time. Because, some people are going to like you and some aren't going to talk to you. And that's the way it goes.
That's the way. So what did you do after you were a prosecutor?
Well, I continued to practice law for a while. I did various things civilly. And I was doing basically pro bono work because I really liked helping people. But it got to the point where, I was thinking about running, but, it was kind of different to be in my hometown, and I'm persona non grata. And I really felt like that, so I left. And I ended up going to California, which people have talked about, but I went there solely to be a screenwriter. Oh. I thought I had some talent. I didn't really know if I had it or not. Turns out I had talent.
Okay.
And I've been a member of the Guild, the Writers Guild, for 30 some years. And that was my goal. My goal was to go somewhere where nobody knew me and to do something where I can make a name for myself without being my father's daughter, it's kind of I like a challenge, and that was a challenge. Yeah.
Did you write anything that we may know about?
No, there's a movie that's supposed to come out in the next summer. I think it is now. So
you're still writing?
No, I'm not right. I haven't written since about 16 months now, I'm writing op-eds. I'm writing speeches. I'm writing that. But trust me, being in Indiana, I see a story wherever I go. I see a movie everywhere because, it's beautiful. It's green, and as opposed to, I never really wrote about like big cities and stuff. I always wrote about small towns and things like that because that's what I know.
Is that what brought you back from California?
Well, brought me back is to run for office.
Oh, really?
I was intending to come back once I got into the Guild and everything. You can write anywhere in the country. I was intending to come back about 10 years after I was there. And unfortunately, I still had my law license. And fortunately for me, I was volunteering at a residential facility for foster children. And I was matched up with a little boy. And after 3 months of knowing me, he just turned to me one day and said, "Would you adopt me?" And I was like, I had not thought about adopting a kid, but I just told him that, I can't cook, and he knew that. And I said, "That's okay with you, then I'll do it." It took 8 years and 3 months to get him out of foster care.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had to hire a lawyer, and we shook on it, and I had to keep my word. And so there was a whole chunk of my life where, I spent going to court trying to get this kid out. He wasn't going to ever go back to his family. He was going to, be homeless at 18. So, and he was sad because he was worried about that, and he should, I didn't really be worried about that. And so today he's grown up, he's married, he has a daughter, he's college graduate. And now I'm free. I mean, I did my parent thing. I did the parent thing for him and got him where he needed to be. And I decided, I just said to him actually last spring or a year ago last spring, I said, there's something I want to do. And he knew what it was. He goes, you want to go back? And I said, yeah, I do.
I
I've
love
waited
it.
for this moment for so long, and it's the right time, I think.
Well,
I,
telling that story about your son almost made me tear up a little bit because, I'm an adopted child and I know how important it is to have a loving parents. And I had two of the greatest. And so to hearing that story of, I was 18 months when they brought me home. So it sounds like this kid was, he could reason, right? And he still wanted, that is like the dopest story ever.
I think I didn't know what, sometimes in life you just got to just go with it, go with the flow. And I just jumped in and did it. And I didn't really know how difficult it was going to be to get him out of there. And also, it's not his fault. He was victimized by his biological parents. It's not his fault he was locked up. And he's a very bright kid. He wanted a home and he wanted love and he wanted a family, like what kids want. And he grew up with all these kids. If I had a big house and more people to help me, I would have gotten a lot of them out of there. But you got to do one-on-one when they've been really traumatized, and it's a different world. And he's a good citizen today. He came out here a couple weeks ago and walked in 2 parades with me. He needed to see what his mom was doing, and he saw, and he appreciates it. And he said he was proud of me. And I just said, well, this is what I want to do, and I want to use my talents. I never got to do this, so yeah, that's the biggest reason why I stayed. I couldn't take this child out of he was in high school when he got adopted. So,
Okay.
he knew kids from grade school and high school, and you can't take him out of their environment. It's what he knew. Yeah. And so, I was only there to write. I wasn't there for anything else. But life happens, and it's the best thing that I've ever done in my life. It will always be the best thing I ever done was to adopt him.
Yeah, yeah. And we always are begging for California or coastal people to move back to the Midwest because that's how we're going to make the real changes. So I got to ask you, you knew you always wanted to run, but you mentioned something that was very significant. You said the timing was right. What makes this the right time for you to put your name on the ballot?
I watched the president starting to sign executive orders, and there were things that I know, like getting rid of U.S. aid, and I know how important that is in the world. It's goodwill in the world. And that really, because I've been in countries where they've showed me, and on the tour, they've showed me one of the buildings was a USAID hospital, and because they're so proud of it, it was all started after JFK's administration. And I really realized what goodwill was when I saw it, what it meant to these people that we contribute to their country and help them. And when I saw him get rid of that, it really, really irked me because I've seen what it does. And not as a doctor, but as just an American that we're there, that we contribute around the world. And I just decided I could do nothing, I could do something. And it was time. Who am I waiting for to step up? I'll step up. I did not know what I was getting into. It's probably better. It's always better not to know.
Baby, I didn't know either when I ran for the first time.
Well, I didn't know what it was going to be like to be a foster parent. I didn't know any of that. But, basically being a good person, that's all you need to do is just be nice and have a little fun sometimes because they're traumatized and they're frightened and it's a new environment for them. And my son called a bedroom. He didn't call his bedroom a bedroom. He called it an area because he grew up in institutional care. So you had to just say, well, that's a cool name for your bedroom. You want to call it your area, go right ahead. Your area can be the living room as well, whatever you like it to be. It had to be a little creative, which is good. And I think in this running for office, you got to be a little creative as well in the fact that you have to just meet somebody where they are and listen to them. That's the biggest thing you have to do is listen. And I spent a long time listening to my son tell me about when he was little, telling me about the life he had lived in his early years. So listening is probably the biggest thing that you have to do as a candidate. And thank God I had experience listening to my son. And I did because Otherwise, he needed someone to talk to about
Yeah.
what had happened. Yeah, so it was interesting. And he encouraged it. And so I came back and I asked around who was going to run, and nobody was going to run. And, no one really was going to, file. So I said, well, I'll do it. It's like, why not? I'll do it. I'll jump in. And it is the second best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Now, running for office is never easy, and running for congressional seat for your first campaign, whew, how did you know what to pull together? I mean, obviously you're a reader, so you probably researched how to run for office, because that's what I did, right?
I tried, but I did not find any books on it. And then no, and they're really, I think you just got to throw yourself into the whole thing. You just got to go out there and just start shaking hands and meeting people. And I had been a writer, so I had been at my desk for 10 hours a day, especially the last like 7 or 8 years when my son was growing up and out of the house. I was, you're all by yourself. And now all of a sudden you've got to go out there and shake everybody's hand. And I'm thinking, wow, that's really a 180-degree turn, but it's okay. I could do that. And actually, you meet a lot of nice people. If I didn't meet people were a little, in my face, it's probably totally different, but it wasn't. I realized they're hungry for someone to represent them, to stand up for them, to be their voice and to advocate for them. And I didn't realize how poorly the congressman was doing his duties, because he doesn't go out, he doesn't do town halls, he doesn't meet the people.
He doesn't feel like he has to, right? Because, we've
Right.
told everybody that this is a red district and you can't win. So he doesn't compete.
Yeah, it's really too bad, because first of all, he's missing out on the people. You learn a lot from them and you hear what their needs are, and that's your job. Your job under the Constitution is you represent them, not your donors, your big donors that you meet behind closed doors. That's just a small amount of the population. It's all those other people that you need to help, and they actually need help, like healthcare, Medicaid. They need to understand why, for example, they can't pay their bills because the minimum wage in Indiana is $7.25 for 16 years. One of the things I've advocated for is you've got to raise to the living wage. I mean, they have to raise it. It's just keeping people down is not the answer in America. It's so un-American. People deserve more.
Well, they've been able to do it for so long because they got us in this rat race, right? They got us in this. We got to have these trinkets. We got to go on these vacations, and they've made us, and I hate to use the word, a slave to the capitalism by saying if you don't have these nice things, then something is wrong with you. You've made poor decisions in your life, and we know that that's not the case.
Exactly. I think, people, I always believed this in my life. People are good. And I have to say, I haven't met anyone, not even a Republican, who got in my face. They've all listened and they're all very nice. And I think they're very disillusioned by what we have now. And that's a sad thing. They see it now. They see the lies, and they hear it, and it's also
Too bad
interesting.
they didn't see it before the election.
But you know what? I think you can make amends for a mistake that you make, if that's what it is. And people have said, I mean, one gentleman, and I was at, I think it was Argus, the fair, and him and his wife, and he said, he was Republican all of his life, but he's sorry that he voted for him, but he's not doing that anymore. He said he was going to vote for me. I didn't even talk to him. I was just standing there. I introduced myself, and he just shared all this. I think people realized they didn't make a mistake. They thought they were doing the right thing. They didn't know the man was a con man. I mean, they don't know the man lies.
No. See, Jamie, I feel you a little bit, but the stories have been out there since the 70s about how this man is a con man. They didn't want to believe that he was a con man.
And I think part of that,
34 felony convictions.
I agree, he's a felon. I have a terrible time the fact that my president's a felon. I mean, it's our president and he's a felon, and he's still trying to rip us off, like with this $1.8 billion slush fund that he wants. And he now he wants immunity from all his taxes, that he's never paid taxes. I don't think that. I think because people are good, and I think they wanted to believe somebody, probably because this is a little bit of television too. I think they really believe that he was on a show and he's that guy. except he didn't write any of those lines. Those lines
Not
are,
near none of them.
yeah, they're all written for someone. So they didn't know. And I'm not going to, I don't feel that way. I think a lot of people are coming over and they're realizing it. They love their country more than they love that man.
I'm
And
glad to
that's,
hear that, because
I think,
there's a reason why I'm not a candidate and I'm on this side of the mic, right?
yeah,
Because he told us, I'm going to have mass deportation and I'm going to have tariffs. And we knew that the mass deportation was going to be horrendous, because how do you, like, if, how do you distinguish me from a Haitian immigrant if I'm not talking? Right. And we knew that tariffs were going to be horrible. All the economists said that these things were going to be what they are. See, that's why they need people like you running, because I'd be like, well, we tried to tell you. And so they need somebody like you that offers more grace, because I ain't offering the grace. I just can't do it. I'm
because,
kidding.
I just, it's kind of mind boggling because we used to have so many newspapers and people could read all this. And now there's only a limited amount of news.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them where they get their news, and some of them go online. There was three sets of couples in a row and down in this fair that said they're going to vote for me and not the Republican, and they were Republicans. And I just stood there and was like, wow, this is kind of a new phenomenon. I was at the Elkhart Fair. Some gentleman was talking to me about the same thing. They keep more and more are coming up. I think not because they want to protect Trump or they like Trump or anything like that. It's all because this isn't their America anymore. And I
Mm.
think that's what they really realize. And that's kind of the thing I'm kind of talking about, is that, look, this is not about party anymore. This is about our nation.
Yeah.
This is our country. Trump loves to say about the poor immigrants and people of color. He says they're rapists and they're murderers. Look, they're not. Okay, more white men have committed crimes than anybody else. So let's get over this. Um, it's just what he says. And of course, when it comes out of his mouth, and we know he's a felon, you got to realize that he's one of them too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there should, he should have been in jail by now. The insurrection was certainly started by him. Unfortunately, Congress was so slow in getting it going, and I
Mm-hmm.
fault them for that. That was like, get on this. We've never seen this before. He needed to be prosecuted. He's not now. I get that. Now he has immunity. He's
Yeah.
doing whatever he's want. He's making $1 billion in the office, and no one's going to go after him because it can't, because of what the Supreme Court did.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I'm running, because this is all wrong. This is not our America anymore. We need to focus on the people of America, not the top 5 or 8% or whatever it is. The people, they deserve better. And that's what I hope to bring to Congress, is to advocate for them, because he doesn't care that they can't afford anything. He doesn't care if the prices go up. He doesn't care if coffee goes up to whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
$15, or whatever it keeps going, or gas goes up. He doesn't care about any of that.
Yeah.
But we all do in our lives. We all notice it. We all know what's going on. But he thinks affordability is a fake word. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the worst part of all of it, I think, is that our congressmen, all these Republican congressmen, majority of them, probably 90% of them, just enable this man. And that's the problem. It's grow up and just, don't give your power away. Stand up to him.
Yeah, and that's the part that kills me. And Jamie, I know that as a woman of a certain age like me, you're used to seeing these men flex and talk about all their testosterone, but then they were used to be outies, but they turned into innies as soon as the orange guy showed up. And it's like, I can't
Yeah.
even, how do you expect me to look at you as some beacon of manhood, and you can't even stand up against what you see is wrong, and you know it's wrong.
They all know it's
They
wrong.
know
They
it's
all know
wrong.
it's wrong. But they're also doing inside trading now.
Yeah.
They're doing whatever they can because he's going to pardon them all. Um, this is a sad chapter in our
Mm-hmm.
history. It really is. And I think, it's going to either go, if we don't flip the House and the Senate, it's going to go the wrong way. If we flip just the House, we might be able to get through this. But if we don't do something about it, it's the people that have to do something about it. It's
Yeah.
them who have to vote. And we can change this. We can get our Department of Justice back. My gosh, whoever thought that thing would be decimated? And it's frightening because he's
Yeah.
using it to go after all his enemies. These people don't think of themselves as his enemy. They were doing their job. But he's never met a law he can't break. sadly. And it's sad. It's sad for all the people that are struggling. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be this way.
Yeah.
Uh, he didn't give them a tax break last year because they're all paying for all the tariffs.
Hmm.
And it's
I
so
think
sad.
about the farmers who lost are struggling with, the soybean farmers here in Indiana who are literally losing their business because of the tariffs. Like China was like, oh, okay, well, we just won't buy your goods anymore. Like,
They
anyway,
lost their market. They lost their China market,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
It was their biggest market, and I think it's like 5% now. And I met a young farmer, fifth generation at, I think it was Stark County Fair. Really interesting guy, not that mid-30s. He's a fifth generation farmer and he worries about it. He has two
Mm.
little kids. He worries about it. They don't want handouts. They work really hard. Farmers work longer than anybody else. They work all day, all night. You know, everybody knows how they get up at the crack of dawn. They've got to work at night. They work all the time and they work so hard to get to sell their product, their produce. And what happens? Trump just says, "Oh, we'll throw money at you," but
Yeah.
they don't want that. They want to sell their product. That's what they're working hard for. Now, fertilizer costs so much money more. It's everything went up. Oil, gas. I mean, it's hammering them every which way, and it's all wrong. And the representative is supposed to go to the president and say, "Don't do this to the farmers. Don't raise. Don't go to this war. Don't have a war because
Yeah.
there's going to be a gas problem." But he didn't do that. He's complicit with the president. They all are because they didn't stand up for their constituents.
Right.
And that's sad. It's sad for these people because there's a lot of bankruptcies now. And how do we stop them? We can't stop them unless we flip Congress and stop the whole thing from continuing because they have a plan. They have a plan.
Yeah.
You read Project 2025. They have a plan.
Oh, and they're
Now,
executing it to
they are,
perfection.
they are, they are. They're trying. Not quite as well as people think, though. I read Regime Change by Haberman. I read some of that, and they make a lot of missteps, but nobody seems to care,
Yeah.
and they just let them get away with it.
Yeah.
But now I care. I care for my country. I took an oath of office 3 times. I adhere to the Constitution. I want my country back. I want people to
Yeah.
be united again, be friends again.
So talking about being friends again, when you're in Congress, you have to deal with a lot of international issues. Yes, you
Yeah.
want to bring things back to your district and help your district flourish, but you're going to be in a lot of conversations when it comes to international affairs. How do you think we can go about repairing the reputational damage that this current administration has inflicted on us as a nation?
I will say this. I went to school. My father was great. He was very successful. And he said, his kids are all readaholics. My mother was a readaholic. He said we could go to any college, any school we could get into. And I was like, any school? He was like, yeah. So I went to Europe to school 3 times. And I was 16. I went to a college program. And what I learned, I was pretty young, but they were all nice to me. But what I learned was, firsthand is how much people in Europe, because we saved them and they
Mm-hmm.
love us. They loved Americans. And I was a kid back then. And every time I went, I just heard more, every country, how much, oh, you're an American. They were so happy to talk to an American. And I spend more time now probably in London because I have friends there and I haven't
Mm-hmm.
been there for a while now. But I've talked to the taxi drivers. I mean, they had this on 60 Minutes not too long ago. These people it's really hard to be a black taxi driver because one of these black cabs because you have to go through a big process. But they know so much about America and they come here and they visit and they've asked all these questions like what's going to happen if Trump wins again? And I said, oh, I don't think he'll win again. And why can't you people elect someone who's like 60? And I was like, well, I don't know. They don't seem to show up, but they care about America so much because
Mm-hmm.
we are still the shining light on the hill. Everybody in Europe respects us because of what we did for 2 world wars. And I think knowing them as I've known them, because I just talk to all these people all the time, they're waiting. They're very disappointed. I know that. I'm glad they've gone on without us because
Mm-hmm.
that's good for
Mm-hmm.
Trump. They don't need to be browbeaten. But I know how much these people in their hearts, we saved them and we freed them from tyranny and from Hitler and everything else, and they know that. Yeah, we need to do a little bit more work on NATO, and some of that was good. Some of that was good. We needed people to pay. But right now in Ukraine, well, sometimes we're helping them and sometimes Trump isn't helping them. He doesn't understand how the world works. He doesn't understand who the enemies are. And Russia is clearly one of those. Sadly, they invaded a sovereign country and they're the aggressor, and we cannot make a deal with them.
Yeah, but he's ruined our reputation all over the world. Not even, I mean, my God, Canada and Mexico. How gonna mess up with your neighbors?
Well, he doesn't, the sad thing is, I don't think he has a friend. And I don't think he knows what it's like to have a friend. And I think he's an anomaly. There's only going to be one person like him. I don't think we're going to
Thank God. Now,
we're never going to elect someone like him again.
I share a birthday with him, but I use my powers for good. I don't, listen, thank goodness, maybe this is and I hate to use the H word, but maybe this is our Hitler moment where we're like, whoa, we don't ever want to see that again, right?
No.
We don't want none of that, or our Idi Amin moment, right? Because
I think we need to teach more. The history classes really need to be to hammer all these issues, that what we did, what the good that we've done all over the world, because we have done so much good. And he's someone who unfortunately doesn't get that. It's all about him. Everything's about him, unfortunately. But I think we can mend these things. I mean, even the Pope has gone after him. Our American
Chicago Pope.
Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. I'm not sure universities like it so much because they're all in a different position now than they've ever been. He's gone after everybody. Harvard, every place I think where he never got in, but or the places that never gave him an honorary. He just goes after them all, and these are independent institutions. So
if they had stood up, that's the part that bugs me. Why would you lay down like a wet blanket? Why don't you you're in the right. If you take it to the court, that's the part that is. I tell you, Jamie, as a queer Black woman that lives in Indiana, the fact that I have to keep watching these people try to suggest that I'm a second-class citizen because of who I am and how I exist, but at least I stand up for myself. And these people, Jamie, do not the law firms. Remember when all the law firms started laying down? You guys know the law better than he does, and you're going to just let him. That's the part I will never, Jamie, I say this and people think I'm nuts when I say it. And I'll be like, how the hell did they get us on the boats? Because I'm watching this mentality and I'm like, are you serious? Y'all have conquered the entire globe at some point, but you can't stand up to this guy. That's why I don't have
one man.
Who eats McDonald's every day?
That's right. That's right. And drinks a lot of Diet Coke.
And thinks he's Hercules when he's really Humpty Dumpty. You know what I'm saying?
I think we're going to have a lot more therapists in the next couple, once we pass this, because everyone's going to have to go to therapy to understand what happened to them. It's kind of a cult-like thing, I think, in a way, but it's sad that they can't stand up. That's one of the reasons. It's probably my best attribute is I have no problem standing up for myself.
I love that.
And for what's right, and that's my mother. She just hammered that into me, whether I wanted to do it or not.
Give up your power. That's what you say.
No, you can't. You can't give it up. And that's the key. And you see these men that gave it up for what? They can't be happy today. They can't be happy. My opponent's running again, and he thinks he's a good congressman. And what has he done? He didn't do one thing in the last 3.5 years to help anyone in this district.
Wow. Well, speaking of policy, because we got to do a little bit of policy, right?
Sure.
First thing I want to know is do you have I know that as a freshman congressman, when you win, you don't really get a choice of committees that you want to sit on. But if you could pick a committee that you want to be a part of, which committee you want to be on?
Oh, that's easy. Justice. My sister, who's beneath me, always said, the first words she ever heard me say is, "It's not fair. All you ever wanted was justice." And I said, yeah, my whole life I wanted that. I wanted to do whatever it was I wanted to do. Oh, you can't do that. You're a woman. I mean, how many times I still have men in my life I've heard, I got rid of them, thank God, but they try to mansplain things to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you're out of here. Are you kidding me? No.
I love it. I love it. Okay. And then when you win, What are the first pieces of legislation you would either like to author or be a co-sponsor on?
That's easy. Eliminate the economy is the most important thing at the moment. So I would say, and it would be getting rid of the tariffs and raising the minimum wage to a living wage, and also dealing with healthcare. 78 countries have healthcare. I've been in 2 countries that gave me healthcare and they wouldn't even let me pay them, and I wasn't a citizen. Think about that. We have to do something about healthcare. It's just gone out of control. And if you don't have your health, how can you go to work? How can you be healthy? Everyone deserves to have health care. I think it's a right, and I really think that's something that we have to do. We're the wealthiest nation on earth. If we'd stop, starting wars that we don't have to be involved in, wasting $1 trillion, we could do this. And we need to do something. We need to do it for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just so that how do you have happiness without having your health?
Yeah.
And you want people to go to the doctor once a year. You want them to have a checkup. You want them to have preventive care. And everyone, why would anyone be against that? Because you'll be a better worker, you'll be a better person, you'll be a better spouse, be better at everything you do if you have your health. If you worry about it all the time, you just don't. And the thing that could be so interesting, you could go from job to job and it goes with you.
Yeah, hello. You're not stuck somewhere because they have amazing benefits.
Yeah, no anxiety that you didn't have the right insurance, you don't have insurance, none of that. It could change our lives. And the whole purpose of government is to make your life better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I love it.
I think that's my top 3.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Jamee, this has been one of my best favorite conversations because we just chit-chatted like we was homies, and I love that. Was there something you want to share with us that I did not ask you? Because I know a lot of times people have talking points, but is there something that you want to make sure that we know about that I didn't ask you about?
The biggest thing that comes up, and I think we did talk about it, was that people think I went away and I'm a carpetbagger and I came back. It wasn't like that.
They may not ever talk about carpetbaggers after Trey Hollingsworth. Are you freaking kidding me?
That, but also it was, I will never regret whatever happens at the end of this election. I'll never regret the fact that I put my kid first, and that's what I had to do. And I think that's what all parents do. I couldn't take him out of his environment there. There's no way I could have ever done that. I thought about it, but it's different. It's a different.
But how can you be a carpetbagger when you actually grew up here?
That's true. And I went to school here. I went to Notre Dame.
Yes, you went to Notre Dame. You went to Notre Dame.
Yeah. I was one of the first women at Notre Dame, one of the first 300. Is that crazy?
Yeah, but the carpetbagger, listen, I know you mentioned it earlier, and if you notice, I glossed over it because it's like, I'm not trying to hear that. If you grew up here and your father has a reputation here and you're not a carpetbagger. A carpetbagger is like a Trey Hollingsworth who grew up in Tennessee and then he moved here for 5 minutes and then put himself on the ballot, paid for himself to get on the ballot, and then served long enough to give him and his family a windfall of cash and then cut out. Like you're not that. You are multi-generational Hoosier. So don't even, and if they say something.
I am that. I also have Hoosier values. I mean,
Absolutely.
They go with you. They go with you wherever you go because that's, whatever you learn as a kid is who you are when you grow up. Those same values with you. And that's pretty important to me. That's do the right thing. What can I say? I've done that.
I love it. This has been like I said, this has been a great conversation because one of a couple of things that I will take away from this conversation. One is your heart is massive. You have the ability to see the good in any and everybody. And that is a trait that not many humans possess, including me. Because you hear me push back like, nah, man, but you have that. And I think that is what we need in our elected officials. So I wanted to highlight that because I feel like if we had people who were writing policies that had more compassion for humans, we would all be in a much better place. And that's why I am very, very excited that you were on the ballot. And the other thing I wanted to mention was you told me several different stories about conversations that you've had at county fairs and people saying, I am not going to vote for the Republican, I'm voting for you. You are an example of why we need to make sure that we contest every race. We should not be having races go uncontested because you never know when the time is right. This is your moment. This is your shining moment. And I believe you have exactly what it takes. You have the right demeanor. You read a lot. So that means you understand situations in a way that a lot of people don't. So I applaud you for putting your name on the ballot. I'm glad that I got a chance to have this conversation with you. I am a new fan. I am fan Decio. I'm a fan. So tell the people where they can find you, Jamee.
Where can they find me? At DCOforCongress.com. How about that?
I love it. I love
Or
it.
in South Bend, or in Elkhart, or in Peru, or in Knox, or in Kosciuszko County, or in Elkhart. I'm everywhere. I go everywhere. I have town halls coming up. I've already done 2 in the last week. I'm going to hope to do 30 town halls in the next 2 months.
Wow.
And go everywhere, because people need to see you. They need to decide if they want to vote for you or not. They can ask me whatever they want to ask me.
I love that. I love that. Being an open book. I love it. Y'all, Jamee Decio, running in Indiana's 2nd Congressional District. Thank you so much for joining me on Turn Left. This was an enlightening and wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Dana. I really appreciate it.
All right. Listen, guys, we can flip District 2. That is an amazing candidate. That is someone who has compassion for people. And when she goes into Congress, she ain't going to be bullied. Right? She already told you, don't let nobody take your power. You keep your power. Words that a woman should be echoing every day of her life in a world that always underestimates how wonderful we are. I never could understand that, because in many cases, the same person that taught you how to eat, taught you how to breathe, taught you how to read and write and tie your shoes, you think they're the less than species? Not. So y'all, one of the things that I'm going to ask for you to do now is, look, running for Congress is not easy. Running for Congress is not cheap. And I am going to make a direct ask from all of you. Whatever you can, click on her donate link that's right below and donate to her campaign. Unfortunately, we live in a Citizens United world where it takes a lot of money to be competitive in a congressional race. We have the right candidate, but they also need the resources to be as successful as they possibly can be. So I'm asking you, I'm imploring all of you, please, whatever you can, please donate to Jamee so that she can have what she needs to communicate. Where does that money go? That money goes to voter contact, right? That congressional district is a big district. That money goes to reaching her voters, telling her story. Oh my God. You think she can have a 45-minute conversation with everybody? No, right? You got a chance to get to know the woman, not just the candidate, but the woman. All right. So if you have it, click her donate link, become a recurring donor if you can, give as much as you can. I know that there are federal limits on how much you can give to federal candidates. If you want to max out, max out. We're not gonna turn it down. Max out. All right. Guys, Indiana's own Dana Black, thank you so much for tuning in to Turn Left, Running for Congress. Gosh, we have a chance, y'all, to flip some seats and take over Congress and right our country. All right? I will holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions, executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by Dorian in 22 from Pixabay.